The Midnight Sky is a film based on Lily Brooks Dalton entitled Good Morning Midnight. It stars George Clooney and Felicity Jones and tells the story of a scientist named Augustine who tries to prevent a group of astronauts, one being Jones's character, Iris Sullivan, from returning to Earth after a global catastrophe. I believe due to dangerous amounts of radiation in major parts of the world. That's the basic premise. So now I'm going to get into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen the film, here's your warning. We learn that the Ether, a spaceship returning from a mission in which they explored one of Jupiter's moons discovered by Augustine, is heading towards Earth. However, the crew of the Ether is unaware of the fact that the Earth is no longer a livable place. And so Augustine must find an antenna that will allow him to reach the Ether to warn them of this. And thus, Augustine treks the unforgiving Arctic to reach a suitable antenna. We immediately feel the state of isolation that Augustine is in an Arctic observatory in 2049 with no one around. A few brief flashbacks give us insight as to what happened in Augustine's past, but not really what's happened to mankind as a whole, which kind of bummed me out. Much of the backstories of our characters is shown to us via flashbacks. And I think this was a smart storytelling method. And I like the inclusions of songs like Tennessee Whiskey by Chris Stapleton after Augustine takes a sip of whiskey, or when the Neil Diamond song plays, Sweet Caroline, when the Ether crew is fixing their spaceship. Gives the film some personality, you know, a little lighthearted fun. So Augustine is dying, and the opportunity to do something good before he dies is upon him. This being to save the Ether spacecraft, which is really like saving his daughter, since we find out that Iris Sullivan on the Ether is in fact Augustine's daughter. So his relation to the little girl that suddenly appears, a young Iris, sort of reflects his relation to love and family. Initially hesitant, but over time, he comes to care for her a great deal. We get that scene where the two share a very playful moment in which they flick peas at each other after Iris doesn't want to eat her peas. And that's adorable. It made me laugh. It made me smile. It was a good scene to give these characters a bit of chemistry. The young Iris doesn't speak, and so she sort of serves as a way for Augustine to spew expository dialogue, but the whole her being an illusion thing makes her not speaking work for me. We also learned that as ambitious and as intelligent as Augustine is, he's uninterested in having a family, resulting in his girlfriend leaving him. And this is made really clear when years later, Augustine meets his girlfriend and it's revealed that they had a daughter, but he opts not to meet her. So at this point in his life, it seems that Augustine is unable to love or have a family, if that makes any sense. Therefore, this dangerous journey that Augustine takes on in order to protect this girl and save the Ether spacecraft is a chance to finally love and care for others. Something I found strange was when the Ether spacecraft discovered the reality of Earth. I liked how it wasn't explained to them by Augustine, they discovered it themselves, but I found it odd that the crew wasn't that shocked at the fact that Earth is no longer a livable place. It seemed to just gloss over them like it was nothing. I mean, to them, they were returning home from a mission in which they were exploring a potentially habitable world for humanity, and they come home and their home is no longer livable, and they react as if it was a minor hitch in their mission. There was only really one astronaut that was dead set on returning to Earth, or I guess two, which is another thing I found odd. The tension between the crew was good though, but it was short-lived. There wasn't enough of it to make it truly dramatic. I also would have liked to know why the Earth had so much radiation on it, or in its atmosphere. I'm assuming because of the radiation that it was like a climate disaster or a man-made one. But then again, not knowing gives the film a little mystery, which is fine for me. A big surprise is what this film did with colors, especially in regards to set pieces. I mean, the set pieces are gorgeous. They're very spectacle. You know, I mean, the space scenes are as awe-inspiring as films could be in 2020. And the film is very well lit. When the astronauts are in space admiring a great view, I feel like I'm admiring a great view too. And the scenes in the snow are particularly well shot. There's a scene when Augustine loses young Iris in the snow, and that scene really depicts how blind someone can be in the snow and the blistering winds, and how paralyzing the cold can be to somebody. Sort of reminded me of The Revenant in the sense that in both films, you really felt the cold and the chill and how dangerous the elements can be to somebody. The sound effects of blistering winds and harsh snow were also very nice. Props. I also really like the music, an appropriate blend of modern sounds and futuristic tones to appeal to us Earthlings in 2020 while also reminding us that this film takes place about 30 years in the future. Also, there are real stakes here. Augustine is dying and he's trying to communicate with the Ether, and the Ether is unaware that they're walking into the lion's den, and then eventually deciding whether or not to return back to the moon on Jupiter. The decision making in such a situation would be undeniably difficult. The pacing of this film is what really bothered me the most, though. The first half of this movie is focused on Augustine and Iris, and the second half is focused on the Ether crew. In a way, I didn't really know which set of people were the main focus of this film. I choose to believe that it was Augustine and Iris, though. So at its core, this film is about a man learning how to love and bond with his daughter. With Iris being an illusion, Augustine was being motivated by what could have been had he had a family. He chose not to meet his daughter early on, but he probably wanted to, just didn't know how. So this experience of braving the polar elements to warn the Ether crew was Augustine's last chance at bonding with someone or something and really gaining something deeper than knowledge right before he dies. Augustine cannot prevent humanity's unfortunate demise, but he could allow his daughter to live on and raise a family of her own, something that Augustine was unable to do. So his life's work was ultimately all for his daughter. Always knew that his daughter was on the mission to the moon that he discovered, and he went through hell in his final days in order to protect her, and in this way the film is beautiful. I like this film. It had solid emotional moments. The film isn't perfect. I didn't think it was one of the best sci-fi films I'd ever seen because at times it felt hollow. This film didn't grip me like other great sci-fi films did, like Interstellar or The Martian. It's not that this film didn't have emotional moments, they just weren't as fleshed out as they could be. This film also lacks originality. When films tread familiar ground, ideally they dare to take risks. This film could have tried newer methods, but it didn't, unfortunately. However, the film has good moments. Got nothing else to watch, throw it on. It was enjoyable, but again, it's just not the best science fiction movie I've ever seen. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe to the channel. I'd be more than appreciative if you did. Have a great day, and I will see y'all next week. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.